There's also something else that came out from Xero, which is more about AI trends and what they're seeing. And then maybe Ariana, you can pile in with your big green t-shirt on and tell us whether or not any of this is all any good, right? What Xero have been doing, as we know, is they're trying to focus on the US market. They're trying to disrupt Intuit and FreshBooks and a few others out there. And they've been doing some research on what they feel is like global AI and US payments opportunities, interestingly enough. And perhaps not surprising given that they made that purchase a while back, which everyone thought was a terrible deal and overpaid for. But we'll see if this comes good. But essentially, what we had was a briefing from Sukhinder, who's the CEO, talking about where they're focused and what they want to do. And basically, their belief is that they're in a really good position to kind of work in the SMB market, to take advantage of the opportunities they've got as a consequence of the Melio acquisition, to really nail down unifying accounting with payments, with all the other processing functionality that they've got. I mean, I'm still a little bit I'm maybe a little bit skeptical about this. I mean, particularly the US market, having to disrupt a big beast like Intuit, it's obviously doable, but it's still challenging, I think, and not sure that they've got enough there to fully do that. But one of the really interesting things they talked about, though, was they've got some data on what they call key small business jobs to be done, and that they're saying that they have 2 million subscribers now benefiting from Xero's full AI features, and over 300,000 using Xero's newer Gen AI features, which were announced at XeroCon in Brisbane. And these jobs to be done that they're talking about is like how they're using the fundamental core engine of the product around data and the platform, and bringing this all together into one place. And then what they're looking at from a go-to-market in terms of how do they go straight into accountants and bookkeepers and help them to do more, which again, I think these comments is really fascinating because this doesn't reflect the experience that we seem to have had with Xero recently, where they're shutting down effectively the Xero ecosystem as a consequence of the API changes. They seem to have been driving a more direct to market approach as well when it comes to like business acquisition. And I mean, lots of people, certainly in the UK, would say that they don't feel like Xero are giving accountants and bookkeepers the same amount of love as they used to, and certainly not giving them the same level of experience, hand holding, and helping them to acquire new clients. So yeah, I feels like real mixed messages. I don't know if it's me, but anyway, that's where I got to with all this.
Just to come in on that, Intuit did that a few years ago, just before COVID, I think it was. They were all really big on the accountants and helping them because obviously there's a great market there for them to resell to their clients. And at one point, I think they got really confident and said, "Nah, forget the accountants now. We're going to focus straight on the market." And that was really bad for them. They had a real dip at that time, but they've changed and come back and focus now more on the accountants to help grow. So if Xero are doing that, from those that have done the same, it's not good news. But with them going into the American market, as you say, Intuit is a huge beast. I don't know how recent this is, but the stat was that Intuit have 80% market share in the
Yeah.
US, which is huge. Being able to infiltrate that, obviously, as you say, can be done slowly and it will take years. But I think they were offering their software for free, right? To US
Yeah,
businesses to
yeah, they
get in
were.
there, which was really interesting. But yeah, also the Intuit platform in the US is way more advanced than what we have here. Now, I don't know whether the Xero version in Australia is also more advanced than the UK one. I don't know. But I think it's going to be quite difficult to infiltrate that based on what they do because there's so much to that software.
Yeah,
I
I think
agree.
also, I think also with this as well, it's obviously they've got this big push in the US, but Xero's early push in the North American market was Canada, and I think speaking to a few people out of Canada, over the last few months, is they now feel like Xero have kind of just ignored that marketplace. The focus is on the US, and I have seen Xero have a little bit of success there, but probably actually at the bookkeeping level. So they're not really getting in at the accounting firm level particularly well. I don't think they're getting very much penetration there unless it's really amongst the very, very small firms. And at ironically, that market play there seems to be around price more than anything else. And interestingly, that's like almost the exact opposite of what we experienced in the UK market, where Xero were predominant in the market, and we had Intuit coming in and basically almost giving away the product for free to accounting partners for a long old time, or getting significant discounts on the product to kind of encourage adoption.
You know what I would add is that from your beast of an update there, they did release 55 different updates. I don't know if that's just, like that's a big impressive number for Xero. I think it's showing that it wants to be the workhorse platform for firms with the breadth and complexity in certain jurisdictions. Like you said, I don't know if that penetration will extend to deeper US tax workflows in the US and what QuickBooks and Intuit is doing out there. But if you zoom out slightly, you've got, different games being played here. If you look at what Sage were doing last week, and we were talking about how they're doing a lot more with AI in terms of embedding AI deeper into operational workflows, the inventory, supply chain, multi-entity environments, where the risk management and process automation really matters. So they're kind of taking a different stance, whereas Xero, from what you're saying, is doubling down on the everyday accountant sort of productivity tools, the smarter reconciliation, the faster bill management, sharper dashboards, building in things on the payment and really deepening its connection with Melio, which again remains to be seen whether that was a good acquisition, but it's practical, visible, and immediately useful for small and mid-sized practices as well as small and mid-sized businesses. So it does feel like slightly more agile, workflow driven, less like the enterprise level of resilience that's maybe some of the other platforms have got in depending on the jurisdiction. So I don't know whether we're just seeing something here where depending on the market jurisdiction, because as you said, Ariana, there's a big difference between QuickBooks' platform in the US versus what it is in the UK, and that still hasn't all come over and translated into the UK market. So maybe we're just seeing something of like Xero using different concept centers, concept countries as like a test bed for where it may want to go deeper on some of its workflows and some of its software, where in other jurisdictions where, for instance, it knows in the UK, the accountant is king or queen, sorry, that there's like more of a focus in just the everyday, like I said, accountant productivity tools.
I think it needed it though. I think that's where everyone should be focusing. So if you make the everyday easier, then you can start looking at the bigger picture. Where I think what's really frustrating accountants is where a lot of the software are coming in at like, oh, flashy things. We've got AI. We're going to do this, that. It's like, yeah, but you can't sort out the basic things. So how am I going to trust AI level of your software? They're not going to. So building on that foundation and strengthening that, then will give accountants so much more confidence in being able to then use the AI and other things that they're implementing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think also, we are incredibly harsh now with these established vendors, not just Xero, but Intuit, Sage, and everything else. Partly because, a lot of us have experienced like what they were like in the early days and how they were so innovative, how they were creating interesting products and, doing something, genuinely groundbreaking at times. And I guess, we talked about this a few times, but there is certainly an element of frustration within the accounting marketplace about what feels like a lack of innovation now, and that's kind of inevitable because these products are mature and there's only so much you can do. I guess, as you kind of pointed out, Indy, it's great that we're seeing so many product feature updates coming into the Xero, for example. And many of them are genuine sort of like improvements, even if they're relatively marginal in what they're doing. I guess my bigger challenge is just like it's the tone from the top. It's great that Xero are doing interesting things, and other products are doing interesting things, but actually, like, I just want real clarity about what does Xero want to do in the UK marketplace? Do they want to double their size? Do they want to keep growing like they're doing? Do they want to focus in on a particular segment or sector? That's the problem. And whilst this big push in the US is obviously like a huge opportunity for them, it's also a massive distraction for their other markets. And we also know that as far as we're concerned, we think there are other great opportunities for them in other places as well. Comes with different challenges, but I guess it's a matter of like, how important is it really genuinely for Xero to break the US? Because it's going to take a huge amount of time and effort, and that's time and effort that's taken away from other places.